Have you ever thought of a scene where hundreds of unused electric vehicles are just rusting away in a field? Believe it or not, that's the reality in China today. So what happened to the electric vehicle dream that was supposed to take the world by storm? Let's look into the shocking truth about the Chinese EV market. China's EV market was on fire a few years back. Sales were soaring and everyone was jumping on the electric bandwagon, but lately things have cooled down. The market growth that used to be over 100% annually has slowed to a crawl. Now it's barely breaking 30%. But hold on a sec, it gets even crazier. Remember all those fancy plug-in hybrids everyone was raving about? Yeah, those are actually leading the growth now, not pure EVs. So, what's going on here? Why are Chinese consumers suddenly hesitant to jump into a shiny new EV? Well, a few things actually. First, let's face it, EVs aren't exactly cheap. The Chinese economy isn't booming like it used to, and people are tightening their belts. Plus, range anxiety and limited charging infrastructure are still big problems. China has a growing problem with EV graveyards, fields overflowing with hundreds of abandoned electric vehicles. Here's the story. A few years back, the Chinese government went all in on EVs, showering startups with cash. Suddenly, there were hundreds of EV companies popping up overnight. The problem though, many of them weren't exactly producing groundbreaking technology or even selling many cars. But hey, they had to meet those government quotas to keep the cash flowing. So, what do? They sold a bunch of EVs to car-sharing companies, even if those companies didn't really need them. And guess what? Those car-sharing companies ended up with a bunch of unwanted EVs, and guess where those EVs ended up? Yep, the graveyards. Even established companies with big names are struggling to turn a profit. Remember Evergrande? Yep, that massive company with seemingly endless resources couldn't crack the EV code. They lost a whopping $17 million on every car they sold. And it's not just them. Companies like vehicle and even NIO, a once promising company by the way, are facing major financial hurdles. The initial boom of the Chinese EV market was a land grab with hundreds of companies vying for a piece of the action. However, the party seems to be over now. With the market growth slowing down significantly and competition becoming increasingly fierce, many of these EV makers are facing an existential crisis. So who's getting left behind? Many of the casualties will be the smaller startups. These companies often lack the resources, technology, and established brand recognition to compete with the big players. They might have gotten a head start with government subsidies, but without a solid foundation and a clear path to profitability, they're struggling to stay afloat. The pressure to produce high-quality competitive EVs while keeping costs down is immense. Add to that the ongoing price war initiated by market leaders like BYD, and things get even more challenging. Companies that haven't yet figured out ways to optimize production and streamline their operations are likely to be squeezed out of the market. So what's the takeaway here? The Chinese EV dream might be hitting a speed bump. You see, the market is saturated, competition is fierce, and consumers are being cautious. It's going to be a shakeout for sure, and only the strongest will survive. But dude, this doesn't mean EVs are doomed. It just means the market needs to mature and find a sustainable path forward. Maybe then and only then, the dream of electric cars in China can get back on track. Thanks for joining us on this ride through the world of Chinese EV trauma. And hey, if you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you again in the next video.